Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the BGL and DocuSign webinar. My name is Warren, and I'm the head of CAS 360 here at BGL. Joining me today from DocuSign is Crystal. Good morning, Crystal. And also joining me today is Bianca from Galpin. So good morning, Bianca. Now, what we are going to go through today is we're going to talk a little bit about how DocuSign works, and go through a little bit of information around the DocuSign story and about how DocuSign have really been able to revolutionize the way we are getting our documents signed. So Crystal will cover that off. Now, what I'm then going to do is talk a little bit about the DocuSign integration with BGL and how the DocuSign integration works with BGL products. And I know that we might have obviously a number of BGL clients in the webinar today and also a number of DocuSign clients in the webinar today. And we'll talk about how we can, first of all, connect the two products and then how we can really use those to get some advantages. Speaking of the advantages, we'll then look at one of our most successful DocuSign clients in Galpin's Accountants, which Bianca is representing today. We'll be able to talk a fair bit about how DocuSign has been able to change the way that they are delivering documents to their clients and also some of the success stories that they have had. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about that as well. And then, of course, we'll have time for some questions. So if you do have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box. We will do our best to answer all of the questions. We do have Andy from the CAS team as well, who will be answering the questions on chat, but we will spend some time at the end of the webinar answering some of those questions. So if you do have any, please feel free to ask away. In terms of the session, it should go around 40 minutes. It is being recorded, so you will be able to watch an action replay later tonight as well. But what I'll do is I'll pass you over now to Crystal, who will talk a little bit about DocuSign. Good morning, Crystal.
Great, thanks so much, Warren, and thanks everyone for joining. As Warren so kindly introduced me, I'm Crystal Harbrow and I work with small to medium businesses around sort of accounting practices and other financial services sector at DocuSign. You may have come across DocuSign before and maybe in a signing experience, maybe you've signed a loan or we're onboarded into an organization with our software. But if you haven't heard of DocuSign before, I hope you learn a little bit about us today and how our customers actually work with us. The aim is really to highlight how we support you to secure, automate and manage not only the eSignature process, but that end-to-end agreement workflow, which BGL also helps us out with. At the moment, there are over 750,000 organizations using DocuSign worldwide. And they range from the world's largest corporations to small local businesses based here in Australia. We work with various industries and more specific to this audience, we work really closely with accounting practices, self-managed super funds, and across the sort of finance and insurance industries. I'd like to explain as well why so many different organizations of different shapes and sizes have actually found a use for DocuSign. The key reason is that agreements are everywhere. So they're the foundation of doing business and you can find them across all the departments. For example, you've got sales contracts, employment offers, non-disclosures, and vendor agreements as well. There are hundreds of types of different types of use cases. And specifically today, we want to have a look at those that relate to corporate and trust compliance. So you've got your ASIC documentation and annual reviews, forms, minutes and resolutions. And that's where CAS 360 actually comes into play a bit. And from the self-managed super funds perspective, you've got those trustee documentation. So in your minutes, declarations, resolutions, then you've got your annual returns and investment strategies as well. We also work closely, and why businesses look to us for guidance is because many signature processes can be quite complex. And we specialize in managing that end-to-end workflow for agreements and try to automate this as much as possible. So as an example, here is sort of a medium complexity situation. You have an agreement, maybe it goes out to a customer externally, it comes back in, you've got legal to action it, an executive signature, and then it goes back out for that final signature with the customer. From there, we also want to take into account that there are data points to be written back into records or other systems, and then informing other parties to kick off those downstream workflows. In this sort of medium complexity scenario, there's already 14 tasks, 9 handoffs, and upwards of 6 people involved. So all of that can be quite tiresome when it's executed manually and through disconnected processes. From a pre-DocuSign era, the agreement process was needlessly costly, slow, unfriendly, and risky. So from a cost perspective, paper-based processes can involve a lot of, hard costs, material costs in printing or posting and scanning. But a lot of the time, the biggest cost is around employee productivity. And that comes into account when you think about rekeying data, when you're chasing people for agreements to get signed, or when you're trying to look for something that's been executed and it's somewhere in someone's email and it's hard to locate. I actually recently spoke to a customer in this industry who was spending 80 hours on only 300 agreements or so, just scanning, renaming, and then archiving those agreements into the right folder. And now when you look at that at sort of a minimum wage salary, that's over $2,500 in employee productivity costs to the business. So you can imagine how that grows when you're looking at over 1,000 agreements annually. It was also slow. So without electronic signature, you're likely mailing or faxing or emailing agreements out and then waiting on the signing parties to locate a printer in this digital age, and then sign, return, and then you'll have to manually process that back in. And if there are any errors throughout this process, or the document's illegible, they've missed a signature spot, this process then has to be repeated until the agreement is properly executed. Unfriendly is a good point. The expectation from clients at this day and age is everything should be quite seamless. So we want to focus on making it as easy as possible to do business with your organization. It's actually a research paper from Forrester that indicated 47% of organizations deliver a poor customer experience because of delays in getting agreements to them, or because of those errors in that back and forth process. And from a risk perspective, this is a big one, specifically in this industry. Not having that central repository to refer back to executed agreements, not having an audit trail on what happened with those documents, it does create a big risk within organizations. So how do we help our customers out? This is what we call the Agreement Cloud. And it looks at the process more holistically. So typically you might think about DocuSign in just this upper right corner of sign and the signature process. But what we're aiming to do, and through a few acquisitions in the last couple of years, is actually bring that out across the entire agreement lifecycle. So how are things getting prepared? What goes into those agreements? Where does that data come from? Then how are they getting executed? So when they're signed, and then from there, how we're acting on those executed agreements. Any downstream payments that need to occur or trigger events in the systems. And from there, managing agreements. We're doing some pretty cool stuff with AI to understand where the risks are in a business, depending on the agreements that they've signed up for. Our integrations as well, so like the BGL products, can also help us manage this prepare and act and manage part, where we can really shine in that sign piece. With eSignature alone, so we're going to look at that today and look at some of the benefits of what eSignature can bring. Businesses are able to now do business more efficiently. So really improving efficiencies across the business, automating as much as possible in the preparation and executing of agreements. We actually find that the average savings across per agreement is $36. So with DocuSign, you can actually set up that automation. You have templates that you can set up with a simple drag and drop. And then from there, our AI can just recognize where the tags on the document need to go and pre-configure things like workflow or reminders on types of agreements, expiration dates, and what the workflow is. So regardless if it's 2 signers or it's 6 people mixed in with internal approval workflows, we can manage that in there as well. And then you're able to also track all your agreements in real time to know where you're up to, who you need to reach out to, but also have those automated reminders in place as well, and have that dashboard for a clear view on where everything's up to in your business. From a compliance and risk perspective, we're actually reducing risk within organizations. Firstly, having an audit trail of what has happened with a document, the IP address, the timestamps, and having a court admissible document that you can use as evidence of highlighting what has happened in a signing process. You can also have a clear view from a central repository of the organization of what you've signed up for and who is sending things out at what time. And the last piece is really about integrating with your existing apps and processes, which is we're obviously going to look at how we work with BGL today and the benefits of being able to pull data out of systems or store automatically into the systems you're already using. But also we integrate with over 350 different platforms to help you streamline that entire process. So without having to manually transfer the data across the agreements, you can now manage this all from one place. And Warren will actually go through how this is done specific to BGL today. So I'll just hand over to Warren now, and he can walk you through the BGL side.
Fantastic. Thank you, Crystal, and hopefully you can see my screen. Someone give me a thumbs up if you can. Be great.
Oh, good.
Can you see that? Fantastic. What I'll do now, I'll commence that presentation. Hopefully it's all good there. All good. We can see that. Fantastic. All right. So what I'm going to talk about now, guys, is obviously a continuation of Crystal's point, but how that now relates to the BGL product suite and CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360 is actually activating a integration. So if your firm today uses CAS 360 or Simple Fund 360 or both, and also DocuSign, you might be in a situation where, as Crystal just mentioned, you are actually manually tagging or adding information to the documents post-creation. But with the integration and with turning the integration on, what happens is we're actually able to unlock a whole heap of extra features. And what this includes, first and foremost, is no more document markups. As part of the CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360 integration, the documents generated in CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360 are automatically marked up. So you don't have to do that process because it's embedded into the CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360 processes. What that means is you're able to get the documents out of your practice quicker. It's all about getting this done quicker so that you can move on to other work. There's a couple of other really important advantages of having the two products connected and integrated as opposed to using them separate. The second one is real-time notifications. When a document has been signed by one of your clients, you will receive a real-time notification into CAS 360 or Simple Fund 360. So as it happens, we leverage the functionality in DocuSign, and we're able to alert you immediately of that signed document. The next one, all about filing of your documents. As soon as a DocuSign document has been digitally signed, it is automatically filed in your CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360 product. So no more getting the email from the client, dragging and dropping it, saving it to your desktop. putting it into CAS 360 or Simple Fund 360. If the integration is on, then this all happens automatically. The next really important feature is improved visibility. And I'll touch on that when it comes to alerts and reminders. But the integration unlocks a huge amount of visibility about where your documents are at. It gives you the ability to see exactly who has and who hasn't signed a document. And what this all leads to, all of these features lead to, is a better overall customer experience. What we are able to do with the integration is get your clients to experience signing their documents, whether it's on their phone, their tablet, their computer, in a much better way than asking them to print the documents off, sign them, somehow scan, upload them and send it back to us. So it's really giving your customer a better experience at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about CAS 360. So with CAS 360 and DocuSign, what we're able to do is get your ASIC forms signed digitally. So you're able to send the forms that you create in CAS 360, send them out to your clients and get them digitally signed or signed and returned. This increases the turnaround time. What it means is that you're able to get these documents out of your office quicker, but it also means you're able to get them signed quicker. I've been working with BGL and working on CAS for a very long time. And the number one problem I have, it's not you. It's not getting the documents out that's the problem. It's getting them back that's the problem. And what we have done with our integration with DocuSign is really tried to focus on making it easier for your clients to get those documents back. We have detailed reminders, which will allow you to see exactly who has and who hasn't signed the documents. And we have document filters as well. So you're really able to see all of your outstanding documents that are awaiting signature. At the click of a button, you can see from your whole practice point of view, which ASIC company compliance documents you are waiting on to be returned. It's really powerful and it's no spreadsheet manipulating or anything like that. And it keeps the documents 100% digital. They never get printed. If saving trees is your thing, then this is exactly up the alley, because you will never see a printed document because it's completely digital. But there's a huge amount of advantages of having a completely digital document life cycle. So let's have a look. So I'll jump across to CAS 360. Hopefully you can see CAS 360 up on your screen now. Let me just check. Can we see? If I can get can I get a thumbs up from someone if they can see CAS 360? Hopefully it's all there. Beautiful, thank you, Crystal. All right, so what I have now is CAS 360. Now, for those of you that haven't seen CAS 360 before, it is all about company and trust compliance. So what we focus on is obviously meeting all of the ASIC company compliance requirements, managing things like your annual reviews, your outstanding documents, your company debts, all the way down to shareholder transactions, officer transactions, even trust management, like change of trustee, allotments of units, trust distributions as well, which are quite topical at the moment. So if you haven't seen the corporate compliance feature set of CAS 360, please reach out to BGL. We are more than happy to show you. But what I'm going to cover off is the process of completing a change inside CAS 360, getting that signed by your client, and all the interactions that are involved. So I'm going to go through the process here of a standard officer transaction. So I'm just going to click on my company, go over to my officers, and I've got here myself listed as a director and secretary. So what I'm going to do is just click on options edit, and I'll set this to a more recent date. Let's make this the 14th of May and hit save. So I've appointed that particular, or appointed myself as a director of the company. And now I'm going to click on prepare forms to prepare the documents. So I've got here my standard set of documents, my cover letter, my form 484, my register of officers, and also my directors meeting minute and resolution, and my consent to act. Now you'll notice across the top, you have a big green bar here that says these documents have been selected to be signed using DocuSign. So what I've had to do is to activate the integration. So for those of you that have both products, both DocuSign and CAS 360, the first step is to activate the integration. So just go to settings, electronic signing settings, and here you can go to BGL integrations and you can activate those settings, that integration. heading back to my company and where I was, I've got my documents here ready to be sent out to the client. So the first thing I'm going to do before they get sent out to the client, getting a lot of questions, getting a few questions about it's not appearing. Is everyone?
I can see.
Just getting a few questions here about it's not appearing.
Yeah, mine just says it's started screen sharing.
I'll refresh it, guys, just give me a second. Okay, can you see CAS 360 up on your screen now? Nope. It's good fun. Let me stop it and start it again. All right, can we see CAS 360 up on the screen now? Yeah, it keeps saying my screen's frozen. All right, give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Alrighty.
While you're doing that, Warren, I might just answer one of the questions that came in.
Yeah, sure.
While we're here, and it was actually something that I find quite common in this industry and across also real estate and randomly schools as well. And it's when clients have one email account, maybe it's an elderly couple or it's parents or someone else that share an email address, and you want to send a DocuSign for signature. The best way to approach that is through SMS authentication. So whilst they might have one email address, they will likely have their own mobile number. And that way you can authenticate who exactly from that email address is actually signing off on the document. And I believe, Warren, you'll speak about that in BGL in a little bit if I've not already given something away.
Beautiful. No, that's all good. That's all good. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Can I get some messages in the chat? It says some sharing. Where does it?
Oh, hang on. Yay.
You can?
Yep. It wouldn't be a webinar without it, Warren.
I'm getting a few yeses in the Q&A. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your patience. My apologies for my poor internet connection, I think it is. All right, here we go. So now I'm in my document production screen. I've got my list of my documents. Now, the first thing I need to do here before I can send this out is to make sure that I know who is signing each form. So in CAS 360, you'll see exactly who is going to sign each form. So I'm going to set this just for simplicity as myself signing the form. Okay, so I can go to my form, can also go to my minutes and set myself, and then also my consent to act, and we'll have myself listed automatically. Now, before you send the documents out, you can also click on electronic signing settings, and here you have a bit of information about who is signing. So I can see quite clearly the one person is set to sign all the documents. You can obviously have as many different people signing the documents as you need. I'm just doing this for the simplicity of the demonstration. And then it's about sending the documents out. So I'm going to here click send. Now, what happens in CAS 360 is we do a fair bit of validation in the background there, and we produce your email. Now, it is a slightly different email that will go to your client. It will have a review documents button rather than the documents attached as a PDF. And that's because we're sending them out for digital signing, and there's a whole process that they'll need to go through. So I click send, and again, we go through a validation, we prepare the documents, and we're basically now creating the documents, sending the email to your client, and then setting those documents up in DocuSign. And that's it. Those documents have been sent out. So there's no marking up. In fact, there's no additional work in CAS 360 at all. Once the integration is turned on, all of the fields in the document packs are automatically there by default, so you don't have to do any work there. And the integration just produces the forms for you and delivers the documents off using the CAS 360 email system. So that has now been delivered off to my client, and the process from your side is done. So now if I open up my emails and hit refresh, hopefully I'll have some emails here. Here we go. And what I'll have is a set of documents to be signed. So this is now your client's view. This is exactly what your client will see. Now you see here, they've got an email telling them they need to sign a form 484. This email is completely customizable. You can put your own logos, your own colors, everything you want in this particular email template. And all your client needs to do is click on review documents. From there, they are taken through to essentially a DocuSign version, a DocuSign instance. So there's a bit of an information here, a bit of a landing page about what has been requested to sign. The client simply clicks on review documents. This will take them into DocuSign where they will be able to view the documents. So this is all your client needs to do is click on continue, start, go through to where they need to sign and they can put in their signature in all of the spots and click finish. And that is it. That's all your client needs to do. They get a document signing complete process here where they're able to request a signed copy to be emailed to them, or they can simply download a signed copy and it will download a signed copy of the documents for them. So that is all your client needs to do. And that is much simpler of a process than printing off the documents and signing them, scanning them and sending them back. From a CAS 360 perspective, what will happen now is you will receive a notification that those documents have been signed. So if I go to my notifications, I'll see here that the documents have been successfully signed and I can click on lodge and I can lodge those documents to ASIC. It is completely signed, but I can also click on view here. And here I have all of the original documents that were prepared and delivered to the client. And then of course I have that certificate of completion, which Crystal mentioned earlier. So we've got a full DocuSign certificate of completion, which has all of your timestamps and all of the activity of the document. And best of all, we have the signed copy with the signatures in place. So there was no scanning, no uploading. It was all completely automatic, and end to end is paperless. The document is signed. You are now able to lodge that off with your client, or lodge it off with ASIC. My apologies. Now there are a couple of extra features that go with that process. So obviously, once you're preparing the documents, delivering them out, it's a really simple and clean process. But there's so many other added features that will be unlocked by using the integration. So you get the digital signing where you're able to have your clients sign the documents, but you also get greater visibility. So here I have some documents that are due. And what I'm going to do is send some reminders to the client. If I click on send reminder, I can see that this document is a DocuSign document. And when I go to send the reminder, I can see who has and who hasn't signed the document. So I can see here that it's been sent. So neither of these signers have signed the document. So what I'm able to do is send a reminder. Now I can send my email reminder off. And inside the email reminder, they'll have the very same review documents button. So I can click on send and that will send that off to the client. I have here another reminder, and this reminder is late. So the client is now going to get a penalty for this. So maybe the reminder is a little bit more urgent. So I can click on send reminder. And again here, I can see who has and who hasn't signed the document. I can see that Jess has signed this document, but Joe hasn't. Because it's a bit urgent, I'm going to send it via SMS. So I'm going to send an SMS off to Joe. Now I might not have Joe's mobile number. I can put that in. Okay. And then what I'm able to do is send off an SMS reminder to Joe. And from the SMS reminder, Joe is able to sign the document. So on their mobile phone, on their iPad, whichever they receive their SMSs on, they're able to complete the signing there and then. So greater visibility, but also greater user experience. What we're also able to do is if we go over to our document screen, on the left-hand side, we've implemented some electronic signing filters. So at the click of a button, I can have a look at all of the documents that have essentially been sent to clients via DocuSign. So here are all of the outstanding documents. The documents have been sent to client via DocuSign. So I can see them all there. I can also see all of the documents that have been sent to the client and have been signed by the client. Okay, so here are all the signed documents. So what I'm able to do is very easily see the unsigned and signed documents instead of managing things like spreadsheets and things like that to manage all of those deadlines. So as you can see, a fair bit of a fair few features and functions around your digital signing. Now I'll move over back over to my presentation. Hopefully nothing breaks while I do this. If something does, please tell me in the Q&A. So I'll move over to my presentation now, and I'll go and just talk a little bit about Simple Invest and Simple Fund 360. So for Simple Invest and Simple Fund 360, you certainly can get all of your SMSF or your trust or company investment documents digitally signed as well. Again, it greatly improves the turnaround, full email delivery, full 100% digital document life cycle as well. So the DocuSign, while I focus on CAS 360 and I focus on CAS 360 for the session, the DocuSign integration is across all of the BGL products, not just inside CAS 360, because we really see digital signing as a firm-wide approach, and we are able to integrate across the board, across all of the apps that we create with your chosen signing provider. Now, with our DocuSign integration, we do have a number of features that are about to be released. So we're looking to release these features in July, and we're very excited to release these because these are some very heavily wish-listed items. So the first thing that you will see is two-factor authentication coming to our DocuSign integration. What that will mean, and as Crystal mentioned before, where you have a husband and wife, for example, that use the same email address, that's supported in CAS 360 and will deliver the two different document packs to that email address, and we will address the emails individually to the people that need to sign. However, you will be able to, and it will be an opt-in, but you will be able to use a two-factor authentication and essentially require a SMS to be sent, very similar to your login. In fact, it uses the very same technology, very similar to your two-factor login, where just before signing, you'll receive an SMS and you can put in that code, and then that will allow you to complete the signing. So two-factor authentication is coming. The next feature that's coming is signing order. So what you're going to be able to do is specify a particular order that you want the document signed in. So do you want one particular director to sign before another director? You will be able to implement a specific signing order, which will be quite nice. Delegated signing is a feature where you are able to specify someone basically to be an intermediary for your particular director. So you essentially can put in a person that will then forward that signing on that to a director. So you'll be able to support that, or we'll be able to support that. Witness signing as well, or witness support. So some documents require witnesses, and we'll be integrating with the DocuSign witness feature to allow not only the signer to sign the document digitally, but the witness to sign the document digitally. And the big one, the one that people have been asking for a very long time, signing dates will appear next to or on the documents next to the signing line. So I'm sure that will make a lot of people very, very happy. It has been a long wish listed feature. So you'll be able to enter in the signing date next to your documents. So I know that that's already come up in the Q&A. So very happy to answer that one before they will be coming in July. What I'm going to do now is introduce Bianca to the webinar. Good morning, Bianca, or maybe good afternoon, Bianca. I think you're on mute, Bianca. So there we go.
Let me just unmute myself. Yeah, how are we going?
I'm good, going well, going well. Now, Bianca, obviously you work for Galpin's Accountants, which use both CAS 360 and DocuSign. For our audience today, can you give a little bit of background on yourself and your firm?
Yeah, so as Warren said, my name is Bianca and I've worked for Galpin since 2015. We're a South Australian firm who've got offices in Mount Gambier, Adelaide, and Mount Gambier, Nord and Stirling. We've got about 6,000 clients and 1,000 companies that we administer. I've worked in accounting and financial planning firms since the early 2000s. It's a long time ago, and in various accounting and client support roles. In my current role, I'm responsible for corporate compliance and administration, including company and trust setups, management of the database, processing of annual returns and company changes. I've always been really keen on process development and improvement and finding efficiencies in how we can get everything done. Anytime CAS release an update, I'm always straight in there digging through what I can incorporate in and get the most out of the system. My background in financial planning means I've got a strong interest in compliance, and so anything that helps keep us on track in that regard, I just love.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Bianca. Now, talk a little bit about the decision process to make you that you guys made to shift to CAS 360.
So we've been using CAS Desktop pretty much since the beginning of time, it feels like. And a couple of years ago, we were given the opportunity to be a beta tester for another corporate compliance software provider. Long story short, it didn't work out, but it did give us the push to investigate if there was a better solution for our practice. We were familiar with BGL through using Simple Fund 360 in the firm. So we knew they were an innovative company who are always constantly evolving and improving their software. As soon as I looked at a few videos on CAS 360 and the capabilities, I was sold. So these days I'm the main user of the software within our practice. So it was up to me to convince the partners of the firm that the investment would be worthwhile. I documented the time savings I would get and where I'd be able to spend that extra time in the practice. I compared all the costs in sending documents via post with stationery and postage and printage costs compared with sending via DocuSign. In the end, I think they just got sick of me with all my persuasive arguments and saying how much I love the software, and they said go for it. I was really quite fortunate in once the okay had been given for us to go ahead with transitioning to CAS 360 and DocuSign. The partners really just gave me the reins in how we could set up the new processes and utilise the software. Having that trust placed in me to get the most out of the program meant we weren't bogged down in all the decision making with multiple other parties and getting every decision approved. So that made it a lot easier.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Bianca. Now, what challenges were you facing with documents and essentially getting documents signed by your customers?
Yeah, so a massive part was just volume. In administering 1,000 companies, that's a lot of annual company statements we're sending out and tracking and getting back, let alone additional changes that are made throughout the year. So keeping track of those and then the subsequent filing and scanning just was a lot to deal with. Because most of our documents are posted from regional South Australia and we have lots of remote clients, delays in the mail system meant it was difficult to get documents returned back to us to be lodged within the 28-day deadlines. And yes, we could have always emailed and those change forms and annual returns. Lots of our mum and dad clients, as I mentioned before, they just don't have printers or scanners at home so much. So that was just an extra hurdle to get those documents back to us. We have also had issues in the past where filing wasn't given the priority or attention to detail that it perhaps required. And like many manual filing systems, locating documents when required had its challenges. The fact that documents were automatically filed on signing completion was a huge win for us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bianca. And what were the main catalysts for deciding to implement DocuSign?
A huge part of the appeal in switching over to CAS 360 was the DocuSign integration. I actually don't think we ever considered signing up for one without using the other. It was always, we'd get both. DocuSign's a massive part of why the program works so efficiently for what I use it for and makes my life so much easier. CAS is still an absolutely powerful tool on its own, but in my opinion, you're just not using it to its full potential without DocuSign. As I mentioned before, living all the way down in Mount Gambier, turnaround time for snail mail always came into play, and the improved client experience of just being able to sign documents remotely was a driver.
Fantastic. It's great to hear. And I mean, you have touched a little bit on this, but some of the benefits and efficiencies that DocuSign brought to your practice?
Yeah, I had a real life little winning example this week. I just sent out a couple of dozen annual company statements to clients using the new multi-tool, which we love. And within 5 minutes, I had an email back from a client saying, "Hey, we've moved address. Can you get that updated?" So I created the change form, sent that out to the client. They signed and sent it back, and it was lodged within 10 minutes of just sending that initial email. It was done. I didn't have to think about it ever again. So I just took it off the mental to-do list. It's great. Pre-DocuSign, that could have even taken up to a month to complete. By the time we posted the original statement, the client remembered to check their PO box and then rang me, send the forms out, the 2-week turnaround time again for the change form to get to them and back, plus all the filing. I much prefer the 10-minute version.
I can imagine. And look, it is really something that, the integration does unlock, is the ability to get, that immediate authorization to make the lodgement.
Yeah.
Talking about client engagement and how CAS 360 and DocuSign has changed the way that I suppose you are engaging with your clients and changing your clients' expectations.
Yeah, they love that immediate response that we could give them. They think we're just incredible. We're all on top of things, which of course we are. We all understand the importance of the annual review process, but clients don't necessarily place a lot of value in it. It's just something they've got to do. They'll happily pay the money through for their ASIC fee, but getting around to signing and returning the solvency minutes and company statements, it's just not something they always prioritise. By incorporating things like the new multi-process tool, DocuSign, and automatic reminders, it means we're able to get the job done really quickly without having to get on the phone all the time to chase them up. And automatic filing means I can just bring up the documents. When the clients are on the phone, I don't have to say, let me just track down your minute book, find the paperwork that they need. And one thing we have found is we've been sending annual company statements out to clients every year. And then now, and they just flick to where the tag was to sign it. When they're actually looking at the document on the screen, they're checking the information, they're making sure that it's right. And so they're letting us know when changes need to be made where they haven't throughout the year.
It's a fantastic added benefit that they are sort of more engaged and looking more into the documents that are coming through.
Yeah.
The last question I'll ask is, if there was someone on the webinar today that is using CAS 360 or Simple Fund 360, but are a little bit on the fence about moving to DocuSign, what's one bit of advice that you would give them about making that digital transformation to digital signing?
Honestly, just bite the bullet and do it. It's just, once you do it, you will not regret it. We've been, my colleague and I, who's at a Sterling branch, always going, oh my God, how good is it? You'll be amazed how quickly you can get the documents out to clients and back ready to lodge. We've had a really encouraging take up by our clients. I had a look at what we send out. I think about 85% of our clients get their documents delivered for their companies sent via DocuSign and electronically. Even a lot more of our technologically challenged clients have been willing to give it a go. I've ran through clients who are in their 80s and taking them through screen by screen, and they're absolutely stoked when they get it. But so don't think, age of clients or demographics like that are a barrier, because we've had a really, really positive experience.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's great to hear the positive experience that you have had, Bianca. I know that we are getting in CAS 360 thousands and thousands of documents digitally signed every single week. And it is encouraging to see, because it's such a huge enabler of the process, because it does remove the biggest time delay and the biggest roadblock, which is essentially getting those documents back. Now, I'll take this time now to obviously thank Bianca for providing some of that experience, I guess, that you've dealt with, and I'll turn over to you, the audience. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A now. What we'll do is we'll spend a little bit of time going through some of these questions and hopefully answer all the questions that you are asking. So if you do have a question, please type it into the Q&A now. I'll get started with answering some of the questions. And the first question that's come through a couple of times here is around ASIC acceptance and ASIC requirements of electronic signing. I'm happy to answer this question because one of the things that that ASIC do have is a sort of a different model for registered agents. So it all depends on two key documents here. The first one is the Form 362. The Form 362 is essentially the authority the company is giving you as a registered agent to lodge documents on their behalf. So you will need that signed by your client. And if that is signed by your client, then you have the ability to lodge documents on your client's behalf. The next document that's actually quite important is the Edge Lodgement Protocol and essentially around that agent protocol. Now, as part of that, ASIC have basically stated, well, not basically, it's worded on their website, that as a registered agent, you are required to have approval. That is all, approval to lodge documents on behalf of your clients. The physical Form 484, that is either wet ink signed or DocuSigned, is actually never transmitted to ASIC. What is transmitted to ASIC is an electronic file that basically says that this is the transaction, and it is the responsibility of the agent to keep record of that approval. So when it comes to approval, there are instances where an email that says, can you please lodge ABC form? That is approval. A signed document is approval. A DocuSign document is approval. As a registered agent, the onus is on you to prove that you had approval to lodge that document. ASIC, as I said, never receive a physical copy of the Form 484. So I hope that answers a couple of the questions that have been coming through, because that is essentially the ASIC compliance around it. You are able to lodge these documents. All you need is to have approval to lodge those documents. The inevitable question, Crystal, that's coming through is around price and around costing. Did you want to answer that question? Because I think that it is a question that we're getting a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the way that DocuSign commercials are put together are relevant to sort of three areas. The first being functionality required. So we talked about a couple of options that could be add-ons like SMS functionality or the requirement to integrate with BGL in general. The other two things are the required envelope volumes and your users. And the last being the amount of onboarding support or ongoing support, how much hand-holding the business might need throughout the contract. So we shape this specifically to businesses and can work through those requirements together if there's interest.
Fantastic, thank you. And Bianca, I've got a question for you from Sharon saying, hi Bianca, can I please ask if your firm prints the ASIC form and files them in a company register? I'm assuming a physical company register.
There are still a few clients who we do, but largely we drew a line in the sand a couple of months into using CAS 360 and said, look, from this point on, everything that we've received back is only going to be stored digitally. The fact that we can download a copy of the documents at any point if we need to provide them back to the client. I'm not doing the job twice.
I can understand. I mean, there is a feature, obviously, there's certainly firms that keep physical registers, and obviously you certainly can do that. There is a feature in CAS 360 that will allow you to print the documents for a company in bulk. So if you did need to provide, I suppose, maybe 20 years of history of documents prepared in CAS Desktop and then CAS 360, you certainly can do that at the click of a button. So Sharon, you certainly are able to reproduce that register very, very easily. Okay, there's a couple of other questions here. Just to go on, I know there's a few more questions around ASIC forms. So the question around ASIC forms, the answer I gave specifically relates to electronic lodged documents. So you are able to send or to lodge those electronically lodgeable documents using DocuSign. Paper forms, so any paper form that you lodge with ASIC will still require a wet ink signature. So I just wanted to make that clarification. There's a question here. If we proceed with the purchase, will DocuSign contact us to work out a quote? The answer basically to that question is at the end of this session, you will be given a little poll and you can opt in if you would like DocuSign to contact you. So that's the best way to go through that, Anthea. Question here, what happens to these documents if a client is deactivated? Look, it's a very important question. In CAS 360, we don't like to use the word delete. And there's a reason for that. It's because we don't delete it. If you deactivate a client, then they are essentially deactivated and you aren't able to work on them until you reactivate them. And when you do reactivate them, all the data and all of the documents are there. So the reason the word is deactivated is because we do not delete. We simply mark it as inactive. And that's more a licensing thing more than anything. The company data and the company documents are always saved in the system unless you physically go through and delete them, and you can only delete them one by one.
If I can add, one thing we do if we ever do have to deactivate a client is we download the documents first and just save them, and then chances are we won't have to reactivate them, because if that's normally all we'd be going back to find.
Absolutely, Bianca. Yeah, very good answer. Just keep going through here. Would a digital signature on a share certificate suffice? In regards to that answer, CAS 360 does allow for the digital certificate, the share certificates to be signed, digitally signed, as well as unit certificates for trusts. Obviously, there's a few more different rules and requirements around those, but generally share certificates are governed by the company constitution. And I know that a lot of the company constitution providers are adding in digital clauses into their company constitution. So when it comes to things like certificates and little things like that, it can be sometimes a little bit more the rules governing the company as opposed to the ASIC requirements. All right, I'm going to keep going here. When will the SMS authentication be up and running? Thank you for your interest, Kim. We're very excited to release this feature. It's looking like it'll be in July 2021. So a lot of those features are in development right now, and they are planned to go live in July. Things happen, but the plan is July. Okay, a couple of questions here. Will I be speaking a little bit more about Simple Fund 360 DocuSign? I won't be, purely because it's not my strong point talking about Simple Fund 360. But what we can do is we can arrange, Healy, for someone to contact you and go through a little bit more Simple Fund 360 digital signing, because it's certainly there, and certainly there's some powerful features there. Another question here, can a cover letter be signed internally by a partner via DocuSign before the docs go to the signing office holder? It's a good question, Janet. The answer at the moment is no, purely because of the way that we've built. I suppose it sort of clashes two features there with the partner review feature and then the DocuSign feature. Maybe it's something I can talk a little bit about, but in the short answer is no, not at the moment. Certainly something we could potentially look at, but the partner review feature, I suppose, might cancel that out, but happy to talk to you a little bit more offline about how we can potentially solve that one for you. Crystal, you might want to answer this. Is there a special DocuSign price for BGL customers?
We absolutely love working with BGL clients. I am sure we can work something out. But I don't think there's anything specifically set up, no.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions here about including more than one form change in an envelope. And I suppose there's a couple of questions that are very similar. And it basically revolves around having multiple companies appear in one envelope as opposed to a company per envelope, which is the process we've gone through. Both Robin and Rhonda have obviously asked very similar questions. From our perspective, it is a lot more complex to program. And from our perspective, it does open up a little bit of a privacy risk, essentially, where there might be different shareholders and there might be different directors across those companies. Obviously, there would be a common director, but it's just essentially you're sending out multiple company document packs in the one email to the same people. So it is a bit of an issue from a programmatic issue from our perspective, and also, I suppose, a concern. It would only be able to be allowed in limited circumstances where the directors and shareholders are almost identical. So it does, I suppose, that does sort of limit it a little bit, as opposed to putting companies with different share structures, different directors into one envelope. We just don't want to be sharing that sort of information. I hope that helps answer the question. All right, I think we're getting through most of the questions. If you guys do have any other questions, please feel free to send them through. There's one question here. Is there an option to archive the signed document details in Simple Fund if a client loses their fund, for example, and they are removed as a client? Rachel, it's a good question. To be honest, you can obviously download any document that is in the document screen in Simple Fund 360 prior to archive. As sort of Bianca mentioned earlier, that's the standard practice that I think would be the best way to go about it, is to download and extract those documents prior to essentially closing the fund off. I would like to be able to see the marked up documents along with the email we get to see that is going to the client before I click send. Rhonda, you definitely can. There's a couple of questions where I might have to go back to CAS 360 if that's okay. To answer this question, you absolutely can view everything before it is sent off to your client. So if I go back to my example that I showed earlier, before I go to send the document pack to the client, I can preview every document by clicking on the link and seeing that information. So every single document before it goes out to my client, I am able to preview. And I have options on the left-hand side here that will allow me to change certain things on the form. So change, for example, the signatory, or change the date on the form. If it's the minute or resolution, I've got a whole heap of options that I'm able to change prior to it being created and then obviously being delivered to the client. So I've got a lot of options, and even things like document templates for my director's meeting minute. I might have a number of different document templates that I utilize. Then what we're able to do is when we go to send the email, before you obviously hit send, you are shown a full copy of the email from the email template. So here is the email that will go to the client, and you can actually make one-off alterations to the email template as well. Add that text in. So again, you have full control over the email, and only once you click send does it get sent to your client. So every single document email that is sent to your clients, you have final approval for. I mentioned earlier the partner review or the document review feature. If this needs to go to a partner or a manager, we have built a workflow in as well to get that document reviewed by and signed off by a partner or manager before a client sees it. The other question I had was, how do we connect the integrations together? So I can do this through my electronic signing settings. Okay, so to do that, you just go on to settings, electronic signing settings. You'll see the options there. Click on go to BGL integrations, and you just need to put in your DocuSign account username and password, and that will activate the integration. So hopefully that answers those questions. Okay, let's see if we've got any more. I think we're getting to the end. Can this be used for company incorporation documents? Is that legal? It's a good question. Again, a lot of the documents for company incorporation are, I suppose, internal documents, so they would be governed by the Constitution. With the Form 201, I guess it's pre-Form 362, so it's a little bit of the chicken before the egg there, Michelle. But essentially, a lot of these documents that are lodged for company incorporation, it's no different to a 484 in that it's lodged electronically, and ASIC never see the physical Form 201. So it will work, and you will be able to get the document signed. I've got a question here regarding lawyers and banks questioning the validity of digitally signed documents. Crystal, is that a question that you wanted to take? It's a little bit outside of my scope.
Yeah, we actually, there's quite a few, and I think I answered this in the chat. Pretty much every type of document is accepted except for deeds, the last outstanding, according to the Electronic Transactions Act in 1999. So yeah, there's a handful of documents that still need a wet signature, and I posted a legality guide in the Q&A that you can sort of work out what's outstanding.
Fantastic, thank you. And look, I do know that there's sometimes banks just have issues getting over the hill. I mean, sometimes banks are still checking the ABR register and not the ASIC register. So, so we sometimes might need to educate them. Okay, there aren't too many other questions coming through. Are the documents able to be reviewed prior to sending them out? So Robin, hopefully I covered that off when I went through the partner review feature. I think we've covered off a lot on these. There's a question here about clients sometimes skipping the ASIC invoice when going through an annual review. Bianca, do your clients ever have that particular issue?
I put it on the front page.
So you
so
change the order.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're sending it for the client to pay directly, yeah, I put it up front. So it's the first thing they see.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. And Rhonda, I don't want to give too much away, but maybe around August, there might be a feature that changes that as well. We've got some big plans. I don't think there's too many other questions. Oh, here we go. Got a couple more. All right, they're coming through now. What is the format to have Dear Sam on emails rather than Dear Sam, Robert Bentley? Very good question, Wendy. All in the CAS 360 dictionary. There is a number of merge fields there that will have the ability for you to use first name, the ability for you to use what we call smart title, the ability for you to use the
casual name.
The casual name. Yeah, it's exactly right. So there are a number of different options there, Wendy. Happy to send you an email that just goes through those. Okay, I don't think there's too many other questions. Natasha sent through an issue about reissuing, but Natasha, I'll probably contact you offline because it's probably a little bit more of a support issue. I think that's it. I don't think there's too many more questions. This is the last one, I think. Can we review the documents attached once sent out and whilst waiting for a partner to review? You might not be able to, Viola. I'll have to look into it. Once you initiate a review, the documents do sit in a holding section rather than in the document section. So no, they will be in your document screen. You should be able to view them through your document screen and options attachments. You should be able to do that, but I'll check it. I'm just running it off the top of my head for now. I think that's it. We've got through a lot of questions, which is good. Hopefully for all of you that attended the session today, you were able to learn a little bit more about the DocuSign integration with BGL applications. I'd like to take this moment to thank Crystal and Bianca for coming along to the session today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Warren.
And if you do have any questions, please feel free to send them through, but I'll take this opportunity now to thank you all for coming along to the webinar today. I hope that you enjoyed the session, learnt a little bit about the DocuSign integration and how it can supercharge your CAS 360 integration. thank you very much for coming along. I hope you have a fantastic Thursday. It's bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.